One thing that Mo has done is constantly challenges at different points of time in the tournament.
I'm going to ask you to do something. I'm going to ask you to really, really make sure we get addicted to this feeling. Because this is a start.
This year at the start, it was about winning home games, and we ended up doing that quite nicely. And as we kept moving forward, it got to a stage where there was a good chance that we could come 1 or 2, and we had our sights set on that.
Given some of the lessons we learned last year, and the fact that we were able to achieve top 2 and see the benefit of it, that naturally became kind of part of our thought process this year. I was expecting halfway through the season that we might have to remind the boys and really focus on that, but actually it wasn't required. They've been pretty ambitious all season, and we've wanted to top the group this year. It's also worth saying that there might be years where we don't achieve top 2 and you've got to find a different way to win, but this year it was good that we've been able to back up what we did last year and top the table, and that really deepens your confidence when you start going into playoffs and knockout games.
So the SRH game, our last qualifying game where we needed either the points or a certain net run rate situation, made for an interesting conundrum.
A, there's an opportunity for us to win the game, but it was a huge total. B, there was a score that was much lesser, and we had to play very differently to achieve that. And it was probably the trickiest one for us as a support staff as well.
The number 1 spot was important because if there had been rain in Dharamsala, that would have meant if you're number 1, you go straight through to the final. If you're number 2 in the league, you've got to go to Chandigarh and qualify. We decided upon allowing the openers to go out there and be aggressive as if they were chasing 255. But we explained to the middle order that the 166 and 179 steps that we needed to tick off on our way to chasing a bigger target. Rajat led that in a very measured pace in the middle. That would have provided some frustration perhaps in the crowd watching the game. They wanted to see us try to chase 255. But it was a pragmatic approach. In the dressing room wrapping up that evening, we had to address that situation.
I know we lost the game, but you did secure us that top position, which if there was rain or something in Dharamshala is quite important. That's not our normal dominant cricket, and it might not have felt brilliant. Okay? But that's life. Not everything works out perfectly.
We didn't want any negative feeling around the fact that we'd lost the game or didn't really take on the 255 chase to permeate through the group. And very soon after, everyone was focused on the next game, and the Hyderabad game was in the past and forgotten.
The first one was a mountain to climb in 2025. The second one was probably a bit of a hill, but then still you had to climb it, and they were confident enough to get it done.
क्यों नहीं हो रही है शादी? क्योंकि अब सर्च नहीं कर रहे हो. Register now on shaadi.com and search for free. सिर्फ shaadi.com. Download now.
Come the big games, you need your senior players to stand up and be counted. And someone like Josh Hazelwood, he just knows how to win big tournaments. The body language, the tone that he uses, the language that he uses, come the big moment. He's not going to be someone who talks a lot in every team meeting. When the playoffs come, he just raises the bar with the way he behaves, with the way he speaks, and most importantly, with the way he bowls in the game. Bhuvneshwar Kumar, Virat Kohli, and definitely Krunal Pandya. These 4 guys have won so many championships. They know how to raise their level. And you want these big boys to step up in the playoffs. And that's what they exactly did.
If you have an identity or a playing style in mind, it doesn't make sense to me to recruit people that don't authentically fit that style and ask them to do something different. So we deliberately went for players that we felt could bring to life the vision of the way we wanted to play in our heads. So what that means is, under pressure, they're not going to revert to anything else. they're going to do what you expect them to do, because that's what they usually do. And I think that's very important in big games. You know, I've seen a lot of teams, and I've been involved in teams as well, where the pressure ramps up and they just move away from probably what has been working. If I go back to that 2024 season when we lost in the eliminator to RR, we'd made some really good ground in the 6 wins in a row, and it felt like in that pressure eliminator game we just reverted back again, which was a strong lesson to Andy and me. So we wanted to build a team that wasn't at risk of doing that.
Winning qualifier 1 gives you a significantly better chance of winning the final, just because of freshness going into that final.
In qualifier 1, we obviously played GT in Dharamshala, conditions that we'd experienced earlier in the group campaign, which was quite helpful. But we know that GT are going to be tough opposition on any surface.
Right from the get-go, we've been talking about being attacking champions, and that game was the perfect example of what wanting to be an attacking champion would mean. You know, we lost the toss, we were put into bat on what was a good pitch, not a great pitch. Just the intent with what Venkatesh Iyer started that game. I mean, it just, if you were GT, you're thinking, wow, he's coming hard at this year.
We put them under pressure, scored 254. They were always going to struggle to get that against our bowling attack.
First playoff game was a great example of why we have certain behavioral patterns, certain languages spoken, certain sort of processes set right through practice sessions and in the lead up to the games, because come at the big game, we want the boys to stand up and know exactly what they need to do and how they need to do it. And that's how they ended up doing it in Dharamshala. It was the best bowling attack of the comp, and we obviously applied pressure using our skills as a batting unit.
GT, I must say, they had a really tough schedule. Playing in Chandigarh, travelling the next day, and then the final the following day. That was a tough lead into the final for them.
We were aware that playing GT in their home conditions was going to give them a bit of an advantage. Of course it would. It'd be like us playing in Bangalore. When you're more used to certain conditions, you're going to probably be better equipped. And they've been quite a good team at home as well. But we don't want to be overly focused on their game. We want to focus on ours. And we're confident that if we play the way we want to play against any opposition, we've got a good chance of winning that game. I was quite pleased with the toss. You know, we were quite keen on bowling first and chasing. It's always good in a game like a final to understand how the pitch might behave and to understand your relationship with risk in a big pressure game like that.
We were well versed in playing against GT, and it's an open secret, their batting unit revolved around Sai and Shubman up front and Butler at 3 or 4.
The first challenge would be, how do we get rid of these 3 as early as possible? Ideally in the power play, if not, how early can we?
So Freddie Wild, Omkar Salvi and the fast bowlers really put their heads together and came up with some good plans to put them under pressure.
And Josh Hazelwood set the tone with Shubman Gill's wicket, and Bhuvi bowled a masterclass of an over to Sai Sudarshan. And once you got those 2 wickets, then you know it was just Joss Butler.
I probably most enjoyed Krunal getting Joss out, so I thought that was a big moment. Even if wickets were falling at the other end, Joss has the ability to take the game away from you. And then in our run chase, you know, huge credit to Virat and Venki for how they approached the power play. You know, they could have seen it as a lowish score and stuttered to a moderate power play. And then before you know it, you lose a couple of wickets and the pressure comes on.